Hey, can you guys hear me?
I'm so tired of people. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Were you trying to talk and were muted or something?
No, this was happening the other night when I was supposed to record with the Bears the other night, and it didn't work then either. But my system is really laggy.
Yeah, I've been having the same problem. I had it like 3 times last week when we recorded, and it's happened when I've recorded with Sean for our horror thing. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, I just rebooted. Like I rebooted my signal booster last week to try to fix it, and I thought it had worked, but now it's not working.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. Hopefully we can get through the episode.
I hope so. I just don't know how much of a lag there is.
Well, every now and then Matt and I will just be quiet, so you think you're not hearing anything. You think it's laggy. We'll just leave some awkward silence in every now and then. Yeah, just to fuck with you.
Well, that's hateful.
Yeah,
hey, it's the holidays. What are the holidays without awkward silences?
It is right. It is the holidays. Have a holly jolly Christmas.
Yeah, we're not even really doing Christmas this year.
I don't know I have no idea what ours is going to look like at all.
We've told our kids we're gonna order some presents and have them shipped to them. But outside of that, we're gonna do our family get together somewhere around March or April when we've all had chances to get vaccines.
Yeah. That's smart. Roger has to work Christmas Eve and Christmas night, so kind of just gonna be low key around Caleb's house.
All the best of times.
So I put on our Facebook group a little while ago a question, and I haven't checked my phone since then, but essentially I was asking if anybody would be interested in a Southern Fried Geekery, like SFG holiday get-together via Zoom some night this week. So depending on how that goes, by no means should anybody feel obligated to jump in or anything, but thought that might be cool. Maybe get some face-to-face talk time with folks who listen to our show, see how that goes. Like I said, I haven't checked my phone to see if anybody's answered it, but we'll see how that turns out. Maybe
if they do, let me know. I'll be glad to jump on.
Yeah. Be cool to talk to some of the folks who listen to our show. Speaking of our show, this is episode 156 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As per usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
I'm Craig Lance.
And this kind of unofficially marks the third year mark. Let me rephrase that so I don't sound like an idiot. This unofficially is our third anniversary of doing the Southern Fried Geekery podcast, or at least of the existence of FSG, which is kind of crazy. I didn't know that we would make it 1 year, much less 3. And we haven't missed a week. We've had some different hosts, had some folks come on and jump off and stuff like that. But it's been a fun little ride.
Yeah,
it has. Yeah, it's been a good time, and we're going to celebrate that by doing a regular old SFG podcast.
Yeah, just talk about some funny books. So I'm just kind of curious though. So in thinking of this as our third anniversary, and Craig, you've been here since the beginning. I mean, this is always this was when we kicked it off with Sean, and then you got Jerry on. So in the 3 years we've been doing this, has there been any things that you've learned, been landmark moments of doing the show that have really stood out to you?
I really kind of enjoyed a couple of our special episodes that we did, like the toy episode.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed some of those. I've enjoyed doing some more of the chaos episodes of late.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy our typical format, but I kind of like when we diverge from that on occasion,
right,
and do something a little different. Those are the ones that always stick out a little bit to me. I've enjoyed some of our guests that we've had on here at different times. Billy Z, and Wendy, and Lily coming on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those special guests. So,
Well, I think what you're talking about is that's been my favorite thing about doing the show as well. It's getting me out of my comfort zone, and getting me to read books that I otherwise wouldn't read, and talk about things that I otherwise wouldn't talk about. That's been the most growth I think I've gotten through the show, because it's nice to be forced out of your wheelhouse every once in a while, because you realize you like things that you didn't know you liked. And for me, so kind of jumping over to Matt, because Matt's been with us almost a full year. I think it's been a full year now. Maybe it's been a little bit.
You've been here almost 2 full years.
Almost 2 full years. Time flies, man. Having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, has there
he's trying to cut some of your time short there, Matt.
Well, he just, it's like when somebody looks so much younger than they are, you just don't realize like how old they are. I just don't realize how long Matt's been with us. It feels like he's always been here in some way, always been in my heart. I feel like,
oh man.
That was some of that awkward silence we said we'd leave in the show for you.
Oh gosh.
So what for you, Matt? What's been like the standout thing for you?
I really, of course, my first show, you guys were nice enough to let me kind of choose the topic, and we did the review of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I've been wanting to break down and discuss with a group of counterparts for years. So that was a huge thrill for me. I absolutely loved doing that. So that one's the standout for me. And then the other things that stand out are, breaking down these things that are really obscure that I've been a huge fan of for years, and introducing those in as well as the Chaos episodes, not to take so much credit for my own idea here, but I really dig the Chaos episodes because they're just that. They're unscripted. You don't know where it's going to go. And it's those I always have a lot of fun with.
I'm starting to like them.
Yeah, I knew it.
No, I mean they are cool because you get those moments where it is just kind of off the cuff, and at the end of the day we're all just kind of fanboys, sitting around a table and talking. So with the Chaos episodes, you really get the spur of the moment ideas and kind of the conceptual notions that are brought up by comment. Like you'll say one thing and I'm like, oh shit, like I haven't thought about it that way, but if I think about it that way, then A, B, and C are also like, you have to contribute those things to the general idea. So they're fun.
So my mic was muted and I said some really smart shit. You're just gonna have to believe me.
Craig always
says. Yeah, no, I had said the same thing right before you started to talk, honestly, that it just feels, the Chaos episodes just feel like three buddies sitting around talking about comics.
Yeah.
We kind of discuss together and that sort of thing, and it takes its own sort of twist and turn. So I think that's why it has a different feel for us on those shows.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we need to think about getting back to doing some more of those breakdowns like we did on Dark Knight Returns. We've kind of slipped away from them.
Yeah.
Or we just take an episode to do a breakdown here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I'm completely down with that. Because, that was fun. So, and it can be, I think the issue with that, and, just a little kind of behind the scenes stuff, is that with some of those, like with a book like Dark Knight Returns, like we all have a copy of that. But with some of those books, they may be a little bit harder to get through or to get, your hands on, except when, or unless you're going to read them digitally, which is fine. Like, I don't think any of us mind doing that. So, there's no excuses. We should totally do that.
Yeah. We just need to plan some more of those episodes here and there.
Yep.
Let me pull up a spreadsheet, start marking them down. Now, is this going to get in the way of us doing trivia? Because as the reigning trivia king, I'm going to need.
You have another 3 months before we do trivia again.
I said something in our group chat this week, and Matt's like, "I can't believe I lost to you in trivia, you piece of shit." It was funny.
To deliver that message a little bit more kindly, I didn't call you a piece of shit. I said, I can't believe you beat me in a trivia game. You had just recently demonstrated a severe lack of memory.
Yes.
And that's the first thing I thought of was like, Christ. It's like, I am shame.
The piece of shit was implied, or maybe I just implied it. So it's often how I think of myself, which probably see a therapist about that. But that's neither here nor there. This is a comic book talk show. I like, just to wrap that up, guys, like I have enjoyed the past 3 years of this. It is my favorite time of the week, hands down, almost every week. Getting to sit around and talk to y'all, even more so now that I don't get to go up to our little local comic shop, which for us is Kapow Comics over in Sherwood, to sit around the table every Wednesday. Now that that's been kind of taken away from me by life, this is genuinely one of the happiest moments of my week. And
who do I have to call to fix this shit so you can come in on Wednesdays on occasion?
The American Bar Association. If you
okay.
just talk to them. But no, and I'm looking forward to another 3 years or however many years we do this, because it's become a fixture of my life. So and I know the similar is true for y'all as well. But without getting too sappy, that's just kind of the bro hug moment of the show. So anyway, let's talk about some comics.
He's not going to leave us a pause for awkward silence.
Yeah, you see that? That's the fastest transition ever in the history of the show.
I'm on my game.
There you have it.
Well,
Matt, you want to go first?
Yeah, go first. Drop a short stack on us. Tell me about 3 books, kind of real quick, that you have read this week.
So, number 1 on my short stack from Image Comics, from Jonathan Hickman and Mike Huddleston, Decorum. Am I the only one still reading this?
I'm kind of saving them and going to read them in arcs, I think, because Hickman is Hickman. So, but I am collecting to read them.
And I'm reading them. So it's one of those books, like, I'm not entirely sure what's happening in the book. But
Are you current? Are you current, Caleb?
I have not read the most recent issue, but again, I couldn't really tell you what's going on in the rest of the book, other than the fact
you're not going to spoil anything by.
Yeah. So anyway, the current issue is my favorite. These beings, these beings in space that have been depicted more I can only describe as abstractly, is interacting with the planet on which these female assassins live, and they hire them to do a job, and they're explaining to the leader of this women's assassins group that money has no meaning for them. So they want to hire them, and they offer to pay them in literally a diamond planet. It is a planet that is one giant diamond. And of course they accept. And what's funny is, they want to talk about it, and the leader's like, wait until they leave, and then they leave, and she's like, and then this one of the women leaders like, I don't know, this comes to me as a little unseemly. And the response of the leader is, unseemly? That fucking robot said diamond planet, and I almost passed out. I came so hard.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I laughed my ass off when I read that. So yeah, this issue of Decorum is definitely my favorite. Things have really taken a very interesting turn. The dialogue between these beings and these women is really good. I mean, it's just so good. It's obvious that these beings are like talking down to these essentially carbon-based life forms that have so much more basic needs. Mm-hmm. And they're doing so, but without being derogatory. It's just like they're obviously trying to talk on their level and find out, talk to them about their motivations. It's great. The dialogue's excellent. Second on my short stack from Marvel Comics is Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. And this was the first issue of this little series was great. This issue I freaking loved. I was really surprised, of the 3 stories that were in this. The story by Chris Claremont and Salvador LaRocca. I liked that story a lot better than I thought I would going in.
Yeah.
because Chris Claremont has written some things over the past few years, and they have just like, personally, I thought they've all been duds. But this one I really dug. This one I'm like, okay, this feels like the old Chris Claremont, that I read as a kid almost exclusively. But I love this issue, man. I can't recommend this series enough.
This is kind of my new favorite anthology. I did not expect, because I'm not as big of a Wolverine fan as obviously as you are, Matt, but I am a huge fan of the original Marvel Comics Presents. So anytime Marvel puts out an anthology, I kind of weigh it up against that. And been a lot of lackluster anthologies, including the reboot of Marvel Comics Presents from like 2 years ago. But this is like incredibly good. And I thought with everything being centered around one character that I would get kind of bored with it after 6 stories. But I mean, this even got me like there's even decent Greg Land art in this, which is something that is really hard to find.
I was just about to, in the story that Unfinished Business by Vita Alea, whatever, and Greg Land. I loved that story, and I'm certainly not a Greg Land fan, but I loved his art in this story. And of course, I'm predispositioned to like it because Sabretooth is in it. And you give me a Sabretooth versus Wolverine story, I mean, that's red meat for me.
Yeah, this was on my short stack as well. And
man,
my God, that Sabretooth battle is some of the most beautiful Wolverine art I've ever seen.
And so was there one panel that stood out to you, and was there one panel specifically that either one of you thought of me when you saw it?
No.
Oh my God. He headbutted Sabretooth and broke his
I was
nose.
going to say that the headbutt was...
There you go. Yeah.
Fucking
and then he
magical.
Said, you always fall for the same bullshit tricks.
Oh God. Magic.
Yeah, that first story was just absolutely beautiful. I went back and just looked through all of the art on it again after I finished reading it. Yeah.
Fucking amazing. Oh my gosh. Headbutts, y'all. Headbutts. So moving on to number 3 from my short stack. Bittersweet was the 12th and final issue from Batman's Grave from DC Comics. Man, I finished reading this issue and I immediately text Craig the phrase, "Warren Ellis, you magnificent bastard." This issue was amazing. The ending is a total freaking gut punch, man. The ending is such a freaking gut punch. And then, once again, and Warren Ellis's to give Warren Ellis credit, very little dialogue. He lets Brian Hitch do all the heavy lifting, and of course Brian Hitch freaking lifts all of it with what looks like ease. All these panels are killer, and the last several pages of the book, there's absolutely no dialogue or writing whatsoever. It's all Brian Hitch's illustrations. And it's unreal. It is so good. And I think Craig will back me up on that.
Oh, for sure. I wish Warren Ellis, I hope he gets his personal issues worked out so that, maybe they will give him a continuous run on Batman. I feel like at this point, he's one of the few people that actually understand the character.
Man, so freaking good, man.
Yeah, things have kind of gotten quieted down on that front, so I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of like Craig. Maybe his, he's taken the steps and made enough like genuine, heartfelt apologies and stuff that folks will kind of, accept the apology.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm gonna pick this up. Hopefully they put it out in hardcover because I do want this.
It is definitely worth the read. Yeah. These 12, it's 12 issues, and it's some of the best Batman and Alfred that I've read in a long time.
Years. And it's easy to read too. Mm-hmm. It's easy to read.
It's kind of like reading Daredevil right now, where you're getting kind of a feel back to the days of, Frank Miller writing Daredevil. You're kind of getting those feels from Batman 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm such a fan of Ellis and Hitch working together anyway. I mean, I'm a huge fan of what they did with the Authority, and those two, I think that they've worked together for so long, that it's kind of like, they've developed a shorthand to be able to, and that's that kind of, the same with Brubaker and Phillips. And you can think of these other incredible, like, writing and art teams that they work together so long, you kind of get a feel for what the other party can do and can produce and want out of the final product. That like those two, I mean, they just know each other, and so they're gonna produce some really incredible work, which it sounds like they have. I really want this as a collected edition so I can actually read it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll buy it if it comes out in a hardback.
Yeah,
to have on my shelf.
Faux show. Well, what's on your short stack this week, Craig?
Well, we've already talked about Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. Not going to go into that other than just go buy the fucking book and read it. Next is Second Coming, Only Begotten Son, #1 by Ahoy Comics, Mark Russell and Richard Pace. This starts up, it takes place as kind of both a prequel and a sequel to the first volume of Second Coming, because it gives us Sunstar's origin story, which of course is Superman's origin story as told by Mark Russell. Did either of you guys read this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so freaking so many laugh out loud moments in this book, for me anyways.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
His dad, Sunstar's dad, just freaking kills it. I mean,
yeah.
Then I read this new book that came out that was kind of a surprise book by Image Comics. It's this new thing that Kirkman's doing where he is coming up with gimmicky ways to release first issues of series. And that is Solid Blood #17. What's interesting about this book is, #1, it starts at 17. #2, it is the complete creative team from Invincible. So it's Kirkman and Otley, and same letters, same colors, all of it. It's the entire group has come back, and this is all done in over-the-top 90s style art on newspaper print.
Really?
So, yeah. Now, it's up to you whether you believe that it's worth the $10 to purchase it or not, that most people are selling it for. I would personally recommend, unless you're buying it for an investment, just get it digitally and read this issue and then sign up for the book. And they even did a fake letters column at the end of it, which I thought was pretty funny, where Kirkman's talking about, because the book has this 90s feel, he's talking about how it's going to be this is his first creator-owned comic, and now that they've made it to issue 17, he's fairly certain it'll make it to issue 25, which would be his longest run ever on a comic book.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Talking about sales of the comic and how it's pretty solid at #17 right now.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's pretty great. And then they have like they just created letters that, quote unquote fans wrote and sent in. But yeah, it's worth the read. I like the fact that it's on like that newspaper print. It looks and feels like a 90s book written with today's style, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's some of Otley's best work in a long time.
Huh.
So, yeah, it's definitely worth picking up.
Is Otley still on Spider-Man?
No, he left Spider-Man.
Good.
He said he did his thing and he was ready to move on, which just means that him and Kirkman decided to do this thing.
Yeah, went back together. I wonder, What's the and then this just, I mean, I get it's a gimmick, but like, was there a purpose in starting with, was it 17 or
Well,
15?
they're going to come back and fill in the first 16 issues. They'll
Okay.
either do it with a trade, just like Firepower, the other
Yeah.
Kirkman book that's just recently started. Which I'm really enjoying that book as well, by the way. It started with like a prequel trade paperback, and then started with issue number 1 being the new story. So, this book, Solid Blood, drops you into the middle of a story, and quite honestly, you don't really know what the hell's going on. But, Layman did this in Chew, where they jumped ahead, I want to say like 20 or 30 issues, and then came back and wrote up to that point. So it's not a new concept, but it's interesting for a first book in a series.
Okay.
And, I think it's a little short-sighted, if I'm being honest, of the comic book stores that are selling this book for $10 a piece to try and grab that money on the first issue, because it's going to turn a lot of people off.
Yeah. Well,
and people won't sign up for the book, and you're going to lose future sales because you're going to lose subscribers to the book.
Well, a lot of them did the same thing with that, and I'm not sure if it was Firepower or what it was, with the bullshit that they did, where like he released a free comic book that he didn't tell anybody, and all of a sudden all these comic shops got the next big Kirkman book.
That was Die, Die, Die.
Yeah, that was Die, 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 and that one was because of his gimmick.
Yeah,
actually cost him. Kirkman did himself in on that one,
right?
Because no one could order the damn book or knew to order it. And the first 3 issues came out, and the comic book stores hadn't been able to even start placing orders for it.
Right. Well, and then they turned around and, they were gouging prices on that. I mean, for a free book that they got, we were seeing it go for places like, talking to friends on the internet, for people were selling it for, $20. The speculators are going to ride the success of, the one Kirkman book until it dies.
Well, there's 2.
Well, that's true, but I mean,
I guess you're talking about Battle Pope.
Yes, definitely talking about Battle Pope and Astounding Wolfman. No, I mean, like I said, he's hit and miss with me. But the Firepower was good. So I'm hoping that maybe, this issue was certainly good. I could see Matt enjoying this book just because I know he loves that 80s style comic book, 90s style comic book. But I could also see Matt not dropping $10 for a first issue of a comic.
Yeah, you can definitely, let me tell you something. You can definitely see that clearly.
that is written on the wall.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be to get it digitally, unless you're buying for an investment.
I have to check into that.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. Like, I didn't hear about this until you told me about it.
Well, I mean, there was no. It was a surprise drop to the comic book stores,
right? Well,
so no one knew about it until Wednesday or Tuesday when it came into the stores.
Yeah, normally there's like some chatter in and among the different comics groups, though, and I didn't even see that about this. And it may just have completely been because I didn't see it, not because it didn't exist. Like this whole like gimmick thing didn't even hit on my little radar this week. So
well, I think maybe people are tired of the Kirkman gimmick thing, but it's an interesting way to get his name out there each time.
Yeah, it is, and until it stops working, and again, I'm not saying that it has. I just could have missed it, but it very well could have stopped working. Like, the gimmick quits being a gimmick when it's the norm.
Well, I mean, even the cover of this book looks, just 1,000% 80s. I mean, 90s.
Right.
I don't know why I keep saying 80s, but it looks just like an image book from the 90s.
Because the 90s were so long ago that it feels like the 80s.
Yeah.
for those of us who have been around for a little bit.
I mean, even the title block, all of it, it just screams 90s comics to you.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Now, the one thing that doesn't scream 90s comic is that it's a $4 book, even when it's not being upcharged. So, and it's on newspaper print for $4.
It's an expensive hobby.
Yeah,
it's an expensive hobby. So I read a few things this week. I actually have been like working hard to get caught up on, last couple of weeks of worth of books that school got in the way of. One of the things that I probably would not have read were it not for this show is the first book on my short stack, and it's a book called Cat Shit One. But cat like the animal, shit like the thing you do, and one like the number. And the reason I probably wouldn't have picked this up is because it is premised off of a manga. And before I started doing this show, I absolutely read zero manga. And through the nudging, urging, and one hostage situation that I don't want to talk about with Jerry and Sean, I've started reading a little bit more manga. This is actually published by Antarctic Press, and it's a reprint of a manga by a guy named Motofumi Kobayashi that came out, I want to say in the early 2000s, but this is actually volume 2, issue 1. Just the 40,000 foot reason to read this comic. It's an anthropomorphic comic set in Vietnam. So it is a really, really good war story, but with animals. So if you're into anthropomorphic thing, at least in the first half, I think you're going to dig this. But the soldiers are rabbits, except for your American soldiers are actually chimpanzees, and it's the way that the Americans worked with the with the Vietnamese and the Europeans in a sense to get through the Vietnam quote unquote police action that we were in. Now, the cool thing about this book too is that the actual anthropomorphic story in the first half is only half the book. The second half is actually a real. It's the same art, but it's drawing with real people, and it's, I guess, in each one of the issues they're going to pick a different military unit from around the world that took part in the Vietnam War, and they're going to feature stories with them. For example, this one looks at the Australian SAS, which are kind of an elite group. I mean, the SAS is also famed for being a British elite group, but this looks at a platoon of the Australian SAS that came in and dropped into the jungle and did their thing. And then the back half of the book is Kobayashi drawing the different weapons of war that were prevalent and prominent during the Vietnam War. He draws it out and then writes a little blurb about it. And there's everything from anti-tank rocket launchers to Swedish Model K machine guns, to the different type of scopes that were used by the armed forces back in the day. So if you're into war comics and you have not heard of this, I encourage you to check this out. Like I said, it's Antarctic Press, and it's a fun story. I'm intrigued. I had not read the first volume of this, even though I've heard about it. So I want to check out more. It's completely black and white. It's done in all pencils. A little bit of gray wash just for texture in some places, but other than that, it was an interesting read, and it's always interesting to me when you get these incredibly serious war comics, or any comics really, these really human moments told through animals. So check that out. The second book on my short stack is a Brand R new book from the House of Ideas, and it's a part of this King in Black dump, so to speak. That there's a bunch of one shots that they put out that are loosely connected to the King in Black event that's happening right now. You don't need to read it per se unless you just want to. This book I just so happened to want to for a couple different reasons. First, because it's a Namor book, and Namor's solidly in my top 5 Marvel characters. I tend to pick up, for better or worse, anything with Namor on it / in it, just because that's he's one of my dudes. He's written poorly a lot, but you got to take what you can get. The other reason to pick this up is because it's written by the great Kurt Busiek. Just an astounding writer. And this book is not Namor in the modern times as we know it. It's actually like a teenage version of Namor. Kind of kicking at Atlantis, trying to learn how to be a prince, working together with all of some of the bigger names. The different people from the Breach. It's got a young Atuma in it. But essentially, at this time in Atlantean history, there is another kind of basically the Avengers of Atlantis. There's this group called the Black Tide, and they are a kind of a select elite group of heroes to the Atlanteans who work together. So I don't know if this is the first time that they've ever came into the picture. I don't know these characters, but it's kind of cool seeing like a young teenage Namor kind of fawning and dipping into a little bit of hero worship prior to him coming up and becoming really kind of self-absorbed and narcissistic. So like I said, for a lot of people that they won't give a shit about this book, and I really can't say as I blame them. It's nothing hyper spectacular. I just happen to be a fan of the character, so I'm kind of coded to check this book out. And then last but certainly not least is the latest volume or the latest issue of a horror comic from Image Comics that I have really, really enjoyed. It is written by Mr. Cullen Bunn, who I've got the utmost respect for, and it's drawn by Kyle Stram with Baldemar Rivas on the colors and Crank doing the letters. It's Unearthed, number 8. Are either one of you still on this book?
I'm not, no.
No?
Yeah, neither am I.
Okay. Well, I know we'd read it we'd read the first issue. It kind of locked me in. So essentially, there is this being that lives underground. Like they thought they were in this cave. It turns out they were in the bowels of this otherworldly being. And essentially, anybody who goes in the cave, there's some Cronenbergian body morphing and horror that they get shipped into. And essentially what is happening is it's making them more digestible and to be absorbed by this giant being. At this point in the story, they figured out what it is. They're fighting against it. They're trying to figure out how to rescue the folks that are still kind of trapped in there. And they're really just trying to figure out how to kill it. Of course, in a book like this, you've got the military-esque people who are kind of, single-minded and aren't thinking things through. And then you've got the young protagonists who are really trying to do whatever they can to save people, to consider the human elements. All in all, I mean, the story's a lot of fun, but just I love Kyle Strom's art. He reminds me a lot of like an early Tradmore, with his, there's a little bit of a manga influence there. There's not a single 90-degree angle except for the corners of the panels anywhere in this book. He's got a fluidity to his art that I really appreciate. Like I said, I think he is. I think Kyle, he does not get the chatter and the credit that he's due, considering how talented he is and how kind of singular he is in his style. So I think he's a very underrated artist in today's artistic community. So check it out. I mean, if you like the type of body horror, specifically the type of body horror that we've been seeing in like the Immortal Hulk, you read this, take a chance on it. Pick up the first trade, check it out, see if you like it. It's the goodness. Hey,
awesome.
Speaking of the Immortal Hulk, set myself up for a hell of a segue right there. Did you like that? That was good. That's talent. You can't teach that at home. That's natural. The Immortal Hulk put out a book this week, again as part of the King in Black, kind of a one shot there. That number one, it's timely. Number two, it's the book that we decided to roundtable. Every week we get together, we decide to pick one book, pour through it, read it, give our differing perspectives on it. Because that's entertainment value at its peak. You can't get any better than that. And so this week we are going to read The Immortal Hulk. It's the one shot. It's written by Al Ewing. It's drawn by Aaron Cooter, colored by Frank Martin and Eric Arcencia, with letters by Corey Pettit. So before we dip into this, what did you guys think? Was there anything that just blew your socks off?
I mean, I liked the book. I certainly did. I thought it was really cool. There was no dialogue whatsoever. I mean, just the pictures, the panels, the illustrations did all the work. Yeah, I thought it was just a fun little episode in this Immortal Hulk / King in Black storyline.
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really seem to have any consequence to the overall storyline to either series. But I'm going to be up for an Immortal Hulk story. I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm predispositioned to like it because I'm so absorbed into the Immortal Hulk story. So give me a one-off of that. You really got to try to screw that up for me.
Because this didn't really have any significant value to the Immortal Hulk story or to the King in Black story. It just kind of felt bad to me. But it doesn't mean it's not drawn well and that it's not constructed well. I could have just done without it, if that makes sense.
I kind of thought that might be the way you felt about it, because when I was reading this, I'm like, like Craig's going to feel the same way that he feels about annuals, and I think that's fair.
Yes.
Other than it being a smorgasbord of art, there wasn't any continuity weight.
I'm not mad I bought it, and I'm not mad I read it. It just had kind of a meh feel to me. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, that's like I said. I knew immediately when I started reading it that you would probably feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Matt on this, and the fact that it's Immortal Hulk. So, it's going to be real hard for me. Like he said, to quote him, you got to try real hard to get me not to like something in that vein. But I'm also a big fan of Aaron Cooter, and so you essentially just gave me an Aaron Cooter art book connected to a series and a style that I adore, and so I just had a lot of fun with it. And it's it's one of those things, like I'm very much steeped in Immortal Hulk, and I'm giving King in Black a chance. I'm glad actually that we read King in Black #1 for the show, because otherwise I would not have read it, and I would have really not understood what was going on here had it not been for that. So I think you kind of have to know what's happening in King in Black before you can, unless you're just there for the art. There's some things that you don't get contextually, especially because there is no narration, and there is no dialogue. It's a silent comic, which I think #1 is cool, but silent comics are incredibly hard to do. Like, they're extreme. That's why nobody really does them. There are a few people who do it really, really well. And this team, I think, did some really good work in that. So, well, before we really break it down and everything, though, let's actually tell you what was in the story. So, interestingly enough, this is a Christmas story, which I was not expecting. out of everything, I did not think that we were going to get a Christmas story out of this. But it opens up with some of the few words in the book. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and they're showing you Manhattan. But this is not just Manhattan, with nothing happening. It's Manhattan with Null's dragons circling the skyline, wreaking all kind of havoc. So if you have read King in Black #1, and or you listen to the last couple episodes of our show, Null is the god of the symbiotes. See also Venom for all things Nullish, or anything that Donny Cates has written other than Thor in the past 3 years, because it seems to all come back to Null. But he's showed up on Earth. He's invading. He's got his celestial dragons, like a whole army of them, of these symbiotic dragon-esque creatures. Don't know where they came from. Don't know how he got them. I don't know if he rented them from Enterprise of Space. Who can say? I'm sure the answer is out there somewhere. But he brought all the hell. And in Manhattan, while this is all happening, it is Christmas time, of course, and it's snowing, and you're getting the white Christmas. And there's this guy, just some Joe from down the block, who is chosen a really awkward and weird time to go out Christmas shopping and get what he needs. But he's returning from his capitalistic endeavors with a hands full of Christmas presents and packages, and he drops one, and he has to turn around and get it. But when he turns around and gets it, who is standing before him but none other than the Immortal Hulk? And this is the Immortal Hulk, as we've seen him the past few issues of Immortal Hulk, he's emaciated. It seems like he's long and lanky and skinny. He's basically got the mind of a child. I know in some of the books, it switches between these different personas, be it Mr. Fix-It or the Devil Hulk, who is now like kind of MIA. Bruce Banner is not really there. He's still deep into his psyche. The World War Hulk is also in there somewhere, but this is not them. This is again, because there's no dialogue, and dialogue is so important to understanding the persona who is kind of active at that moment. All you really know is that this version of the Hulk is very simplistic, very childlike. He might actually just be the original Hulk, who was driven by base impulses, who was very childlike. And so he reaches down to pick up this gift, and of course the guy who dropped it, he got the hell out of there, right? He's like, no, I look up and see this weird green figure that looks a lot like the Hulk. I know what the Hulk does. I'm gone. Screw that present. I can get somebody else a gift card. And so he gets the hell out of there. And Hulk, being left there with a little gift, reaches down to pick it up, but out of the corner of his eye, he sees some movement. And what he sees is this really grotesque symbiote type creature. You can't really make out if there's anything underneath it. He might just be pure symbiote. There's a weird growth growing out of his tongue. I mean, it's just nasty. He's got the spiral on top of his skull that throws back to the Absolute Carnage series that Donny Cates did. And this thing, all it sees is a Hulk. Like it sees meat, and that it wants to devour. So it attacks. It just goes all symbiote. Weird gooey tendrils just coming out of crevices and a gaping maw full of teeth, and it goes after the Hulk. Well, the Hulk, reaches for the closest thing that he can possibly get, which is a lamppost, and he breaks the lamppost, rips it in half. Sparks go flying everywhere, and he starts to pummel this symbiote monster demon creature thing. But it's a symbiote monster demon creature thing, which means it doesn't really have any mass, any like hit. It's like beating water or beating Play-Doh. It just kind of morphs around the pole and gets all over the Hulk and starts attacking him. But accidentally on purpose, the Hulk reaches up trying to pull himself away from it, and he grabs the broken lamppost that has live wire sticking out of it. Well, we know that the one thing that kind of hurts symbiotes, or one of the few things that kind of hurts symbiotes, is electricity. And so the Hulk kind of becomes a conduit, just lets the electricity flows through him, and he fries this poor fucker to a char. Like there's nothing left but ash and sadness of this symbiote creature. And what that leaves is, a very confused, very tired, slightly static Hulk, looking at a gift wrap box, to which he opens, and it's a hairdryer for a little girl who will now have frizzy hair for the rest of the year because she's not getting this hairdryer. But all this commotion, of course, this attracts who else but NYPD, their finest, who show up, sirens blaring, to see a Hulk like pointing at the grounds, like, look, I didn't do this on purpose. There was a thing. Did you not see the thing? The thing was there. And of course, they just open fire and shoot the shit out of him. So he gets out of there. He's scared. This is not like, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. Not really sure why the cops are shooting at him when he just killed a goo monster. And so he jumps and he lands right in front of Mantlow's toy store, which is, we've seen before. And it's all decked out for the holidays. There are little, there's presents in the storefront windows. There are, mannequins of children playing with the stores. And this place is a winter wonderland. It's like you walk, you put a kid in front of Toys R Us back when it existed. The child wants to play with everything, but with the Hulk, the Hulk also has access to memory, specifically of his very abusive father, who, Al Ewing has done a really good job of using that over in the main run. But the Hulk kind of has these flashbacks of his father, destroying a connector set that he was playing with and abusing his mother and abusing him. And it like just those memories, those things trigger Hulk, and he kind of goes into a rage, which causes him to morph, and what I love about what Al Ewing does with these, the Hulk's transformation scenes are some of the most beautiful yet grotesque things that you are ever going to see in a comic book. I mean, they are just nasty aberrations of like, I don't even know how you conceptualize these things with the human brain, because it is twisted. It is just no human mind should be able to think of flesh this way. But again, I mean, it's Cronenbergian, right? Like that's the key word there of this metamorphosis. And what it leaves is Bruce Banner, the human, who apparently, although he can't come out and do a lot, he has the ability to manscape into a handlebar mustache in his free time, which is interesting and weird. But he finds himself in this wreckage of this toy store right as the cops pull up, and he looks around and he sees police in one area, and there's another one of these symbiote spiral goo monster things rocking around, and he realizes that he is not fit in his human form. He's not capable of handling this situation that he finds himself in. So he kind of walks past the broken glass of when he breaks into the toy store. He cuts his feet up and leaves a blood trail behind him, to which this monster, the second and the thing is very, very, very well designed. It's kind of this two-headed demon monster creature. He follows the blood trail back. And as he follows, you see Bruce, who probably is actually Joe Fixit, considering what he looks like. He has kind of fortified himself. Number one, he picked up some bunny slippers along the way, so respect to that man. Anybody who kicks ass in bunny slippers gets a high five from me. But he's kind of fortified this area, and he's going to use this toy store's electronics section as a sonic weapon, and a bottle of hairspray and a lighter to really fix this problem in a really cool way. And so he does that, and what's left behind is a very childlike Hulk, free to play with teddy bears and balls and a little stuffed toys that look a lot like the other Avengers in this toy store. I dug this story. Again, all of that. I mean, the story in and of itself is a testament to Aaron Cooter, or not Aaron Cooter. Well, I mean, it is a testament to Aaron Cooter, but it's really a testament to Al Ewing's writing, but it's a testament to Aaron Cooter's sequential storytelling. You can't do this without an artist who understands the juxtaposition of panels to tell a story, who like everything in the story, the emotion, the plot, every single bit of it is only available to you as the reader, because Aaron Cooter knows how to sideline his art. He knows how to establish panels in a way to put the emotion there that leads you from one scene to the next, that tells a complete and total story that doesn't need narration. It doesn't need that juxtaposition, or the juxtaposition of words to his pictures to really free flow what's happening. It's like I knew the man was good because I've read a lot of his stuff, but like this, as far as art goes, and again, I say this realizing that you have to take a lot of my praise with a grain of salt, but it's some of the best work I've seen him do. Some of the best storytelling work I've seen him do. So this is like this was a little highlight one shot for me that, I don't know, it left me it left me feeling happy, which is what you want from a comic, especially a one shot like this.
Yeah, I really liked the facial expressions that Cooter illustrated on the Hulk. Those, I really like those.
Yeah. You because he draws so much out of it, right? Like, I mean, I'm so looking at the last page, there's this panel of, again, the very childlike Hulk playing in the toy store, and it's pure childish wonder that he is able to pull out with not a lot. Like you get legitimate fear out of some of the other panels that he draws. So he's very, very good at evoking emotion. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great moments in this book for sure. I really I liked when he fought the demon at first, or the I'm assuming it's one of the symbiotes at the beginning, that he just pummels and, like you said, left a pile of goo. And then the end where he's just went from that to being this child just playing with toys.
Yeah.
It's an interesting journey for Hulk for, a one shot.
Well, he's fighting this symbiote in the street, pummels it, fries it with electricity, and then immediately opens the present that's laying on the sidewalk.
Right.
And then the expression on his face when he finds out it's a hairdryer. It's pretty so,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of funny moments in it for sure.
My favorite panel in the whole book is like I said, right when the cops pull up and they all get out of the cars and they're pointing guns at the Hulk. And to be fair, you can't blame him. He is the Hulk, the dude levels cities. But he's got one hand in the air and he's pointing at the gutter. He was like, no, like shoot that thing. And of course it's gone. But he can't realize, he can't process why they don't realize that he did a good thing. It's just the look on his face, like that whole the whole motion, everything that is pouring out of that is just hilarious to me, because you can hear what he would say, and yeah. And I just realized this. I missed this at first, but the second goo monster, it's actually the same goo monster. It took over the cops. I missed that in the first go around. So the two-headed thing is because it's literally ingested two different police officers. One of which also has a handlebar mustache. Apparently, Marvel Universe handlebar mustaches are a big thing.
You think that was dictated by Cooter directly? We need X amount of handlebar mustaches into this piece of work.
It very well could be. Now, like I said,
editorial decision.
Yeah.
Aaron rocks a nice beard. We happen to, just through the show and through some local comic shows, and the fact that Aaron is an Arkansas boy. He lives up in Northwest Arkansas, so we get to be friends with him. We are blessed with that privilege. But he rocks a nice beard. I don't know if he's currently rocking a handlebar mustache, but I'm gonna send him a message here shortly and tell him if he's not, then it's false advertising. Like, he needs to have the courage of his convictions. If you're gonna put it in a book, he needs to put it on his face. I demand a Cooter handlebar mustache.
It takes a special kind of mustache growth in order to be able to get a handlebar mustache.
Special mustache growth.
I mean, not everybody can do it. You kind of have to have like thinner facial hair to get it to happen.
That I can't grow any kind of mustache, so I just don't have that genetic option.
Well, so therefore you're never allowed to draw somebody with a handlebar mustache.
Yeah. And also, I think it's kind of hypocritical for you to dictate to someone have a handlebar mustache, given your own like to do so.
Look, there are other reasons I want Aaron Cooter to have a handlebar mustache. Don't take away my mustache dreams, sir. Do it. It's not like anybody's going to listen to me anyway. I mean, you guys don't even listen to me, much less Aaron Cooter. So why would he give a shit?
I mean,
there's another one of those silences.
Yeah, awkward silence.
I have no power here. No, overall, this book was a win for me. It'll go. There's been some really good Immortal Hulk one shots. The one written by Jeff Lemire comes to mind earlier this year. So I mean, if one shots aren't your thing, that's understandable. But if you're a fan of, I mean, any of the series, be it the main Immortal Hulk series, you're not going to be disappointed. I think with this book, you might just like Craig said, you might just be left with there's no real weight here. I'm not sad about it. I didn't necessarily need it, but it was what it was.
Yeah, I wasn't mad that I read the book for sure. It has some funny moments. You laugh. You enjoy the art, in the story and go on with your day.
I mean, that's in a silent book. That's really all you can do.
Sometimes.
So, nah. Aaron's a top shelf artist, man. Love seeing. I want to own one of these pages real bad. Real bad. I don't know if I can afford to, and he might up the price depending on if he listens to this and hears my mustachioed commentary. But I want it. I want it real bad. So, what have you been reading this week, Craig? We'll go with you first.
Well, people have been talking about a certain fandom this week quite a bit, especially since Friday. That's Star Wars. So staying in that spirit. Yeah. You're going to say what?
I was going to say Dune.
Yeah, Dune. Staying in that spirit, I'm going to talk about Darth Vader #8, which is, of course, Marvel Comics, written by Greg Pak. Raphael Ayinko absolutely kills it on the art in this book. Niraj Menon doing the colors, and Joe Caramagna, I think is how you say his name, doing the letters. So where this book picks up is a couple of issues ago, the Emperor wanting to remind Vader of the true ways of the Sith, following Vader's tirade through the galaxy, wreaking havoc on anyone that hid the fact that Luke was his son from him. The Emperor leaves Vader without most of his limbs, banished on Mustafar, broken, and forbids Vader from using the Force to survive. So Vader's left there to... I mean, you guys remember Mustafar from the movie. It's not an easy environment to live in, let alone to not have any limbs and try and get around in. And to make it just a little bit more of a test, he sends a Sith assassin after Vader. And so Vader has slowly been picking off these members of the Sith assassins troop, I would say, and he's using their robotic limbs to build himself new limbs. So he's got, a leg from one of them and an arm from one of them. And in the meantime, he's starting to feel this presence of a Force using being in his mind. And so Vader begins to hunt down this being. And while he's doing so, he's getting all these Force visions, like reminders of his recent past, him killing Obi-Wan, Luke turning down his offer to help rule by his side, because this takes place after Empire Strikes Back. So Vader continues his merciless march to this being, which we find out is a spider-type being. Vader's continuously demanding that he be given what he needs. And this Force user continues to goad Vader, telling him he no longer knows the difference from what he needs and what he wants. So finally, Vader is face to face with this thing, who is sitting on a stone out in the lava. Vader looks at his new fake legs and says, "The hell with it," and marches through the lava to go get what he wants from this thing. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Vader says, "The hell with it," and walks in.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't actually say that, but you can read it on his facial expressions through his mask even. He looks down, looks at this being, and says, "Screw it," and just starts walking through the lava. And he gets there, and what he actually finds that he's needing is one of the Wayfinders from Rise of Skywalker, if you'll remember that. Mm-hmm. That leads Siths to Exegol. So just as he claims it, the Sith assassin shows up with his little minions, and Vader turns and looks at him and says, "Glad you're here. I need new parts." And that's where the book ends. But, very snarky Vader ending to it. But what I'm most excited about is that they're going to tie this into Rise of Skywalker and give us some of the background on Exegol in this series. So the fact that, the Emperor's whole plan was for him to be on Mustafar to find the true ways of the Sith, and he's giving him a wayfinder to get to Exegol. But he had to earn that. The Emperor didn't just hand it to him and say, go to Exegol. So, if you enjoyed the sequel trilogy, you need to be reading this series, apparently.
Well, plus it's Greg Pak, right?
It's written really well. There's not much dialogue in this particular issue, but what dialogue there is pretty great. Just this creature that keeps telling him, you don't know what you want anymore. You don't know the difference between want and need anymore.
Yeah.
Knowing that, Vader in all of his fierceness is just heading toward him.
Well, but I like, when the same creature says, and even if you have chosen what you want or what you need, who cares? And that's when Vader says, that's when Vader is standing in front of that molten lava, and he walks into it, that he says, I have chosen, and you will care. That was badass. I was like, man, I can't. This is a great, these stories of Vader just being just the indomitable will and the unstoppable killing machine nature of the character of Darth Vader, I just cannot get enough of. I freaking just love this stuff.
Yeah, and this has been written so well by Pak, this whole series. We're only 8 issues in, but he went on a rampage following the whole events with Luke, and now the Emperor's trying to put him in his place. And that issue where the Emperor just rips him apart.
Yeah.
You're just like, holy shit, because as unstoppable as Vader is, the Emperor can stop him anytime he wants.
Yeah.
Or at least at this point, he could.
Well, and it's hard, reading into that. It's like, is Vader kind of giving himself to that because it is the Emperor? Does the Emperor have complete and total power over him? It's hard to tell exactly what is what.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because I think there is some of it that Vader just respects him as the master.
I can't help but read that into it. Whenever that's happening, he's not fighting the Emperor back like he does every other being in the universe because of the subordinate relationship that he has with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you love Star Wars, you need to be reading this book. Honestly, all of the Vader books have been really good, but this one's top notch too. Along that line.
It has been. I'll admit, I think all the Vader books have been outstanding. This one has been my least favorite of all of them, and I still like it a lot. It's to me, this is the one I've liked the least, but that's only by comparison. The last few have been like some of the best things on the shelf.
Right.
And this one is too.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward. This is the Star Wars book that I look forward to the most every month.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what we're going to find out about Exegol in the ways of the Sith, because that's kind of the whole point, that's what the Emperor wants Vader to do.
Yeah.
But because they're Sith, he can't just send them on his way there. He has to prove and earn it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the lightsabers. He couldn't just go get a crystal. He had to kill a Jedi and take their crystal and make it bleed to get a red blade. He couldn't just go get himself a new crystal.
Yeah.
Do you think whenever Vader sees like a lava pit, he's just like, shit again?
In this one, he just kind of shrugs and says, fuck it, I'm going in.
Whoever
these are somebody else's limbs anyways.
Yeah.
Whoever this Force user is has got to be one of the biggest smart asses in the planet, though. To sit there and like just, basically talk shit in Vader's brain and then make him, walk through lava again to get over there. Like that's like the internet troll from a long time ago in a galaxy far away.
Yeah, it's basically Star Wars fans yelling at Vader, right?
Right, pretty much. Yeah. So I
read this book,
because I'm not reading any of the Star Wars catalog. Are there? So I know that and there's a lot. Like Marvel's got quite a broad couple of titles for the Star Wars things. Are there any of the other Star Wars books that are really standing out right now, or is it just the Vader book that's
so
not...
Right now there's only 3 titles besides the kids books. You have Vader, you have Star Wars, and you have Dr. Aphra.
Okay.
The Star Wars one is good because of the time frame it's in.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really been digging the art too much on it, to be honest. But it's taking place in that period between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So we're going to see them setting up the plans to go get Han. They're looking for bases. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on in it. So, it's kind of that interesting time that we've never had that filled in before, or if we have, it's Legends now.
Mm-hmm.
So the time frame is interesting to me. It's kind of like the Poe Dameron book that was out previously, leading up to Rise of Skywalker. You had kind of this added. It was telling you some stuff going on after The Last Jedi, leading up to Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like when they fill that stuff in for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, Vader's definitely the best right now.
I was just curious because, like I said, I'm not on any of those books, but there's it seems like Marvel's done a really, really good job with the Star Wars titles across the board.
For the most part, they really, really have.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Matt, what you been reading this week, brother?
So the book I'm going to talk about actually came out a couple of weeks ago. I just got it this past Wednesday and read it. I'm going to get like nerd squared here. I'm getting nerdy about nerdy stuff, which I really like to do. From IDW, their series this is a limited series, obviously, from Fred Van Lente and Ryan Dunleavy. This is the comic book history of animation. This is a follow-up to their first series, the comic book history of comic books, which I loved. This is part 1, titled Silent But Deadly. So fart jokes. Dig it. I love reading the history of things that I'm interested in, comic books being one of them. And, related to that was obviously animation. And Fred Van Lente does a really good job of research on these topics, but also making the narration flow easily, not getting super detailed to where you're bogged down in the minutia. It just gives you the broad strokes of the evolution of the industry. And Ryan Dunleavy does a great job in illustrating it. He's got a very fun, cartoony animation style. So it just makes them fun to look at. It makes it feel makes it feel a lot lighter to read and look at, even though you're reading a history lesson. For a lot of people that don't necessarily dig reading history, I'm not one of those people. I really like reading history. It may be a little easier for you to read this given the narration style and the look of the book. But I really do recommend this series. I think learning the backstory and the history of the things that you're interested in is really important if you want to have an informed conversation about these kind of things. I also understand how a lot of people wouldn't give a shit about that, so no judgment. But this series goes all the way back and talks about...
I mean, it sounded like judgment.
Yeah, well, that's why I want to make sure and say no judgment. So,
It's kind of like when you say with all due respect, knowing that there's no respect due.
Yeah, bless your heart, Caleb. So this starts all the way back and talks about the history of animation in America and what's called chalk talkings, where illustrators would do, as a vaudeville act, drawings in front of a crowd, and how they were very, very popular. And the number of talented illustrators, were very, very small. But these guys would get on stage and they would start drawing a picture with a series of lines and shapes in what looked like, oh, okay, he's drawing a bicycle. Well, by the time the illustrator is done drawing, it's not a bicycle, it's a house, you know. So people really got a kick out of watching these guys have the skill to do that, make a drawing come together by drawing different things at different times from different angles, and then bang, all of a sudden it comes together, and it's something you completely didn't see coming. So it goes all the way back to talking about the drawing as part of a vaudeville act. One of the things that's interesting, one of the more popular chalk, these chalk talking illustrators was a teenager named J. Stewart Blackton, and he toured upstate New York with a couple of magicians doing his act. He did his act in drag as Mademoiselle Stewart, which I thought was pretty interesting, giving we're talking about the late 1800s, and this is a teenager doing a act in drag. Mm-hmm. Really, I thought, I was like, wow, okay. And that was just a small time act. It never really gained a lot of attention. So he started working as a journalist for a magazine, a newspaper called the New York Evening World. One of his assignments happened to be to interview Thomas Edison. When he went to interview Thomas Edison, he happened to be carrying his sketchbook. Edison looked at it, said, "Hey, I want you to illustrate me." They go to Edison's movie studio, and Edison films him doing an illustration. This launched the popularity of people watching these chalk talking shows in movie theaters throughout the country that Edison had launched. And there was an artist who started filming himself drawing, and then the drawings essentially coming to life as animated features. And those got extremely popular. Well, what's funny is there were theories that these were puppet shows he was filming, and these weren't actually, because nobody had ever seen animation. Nobody had seen a cartoon, a moving picture cartoon. So a lot of people would watch these cartoons and think, oh, this is a scam. These are actually puppets, not actually cartoon characters, So this guy, in response to that, ended up filming one of these same little interactive movies with a dinosaur called Millie the Dinosaur. You can actually Google it and watch this. So he did that just to prove, no, this is drawing coming to life, essentially. There's no trick, so this isn't a puppet. And, as the book goes on, it gets into like the creator, one of the Warner Brothers, one of the literal Warner Brothers that started the Warner Brother movie studio. Mm-hmm. Part of that movie studio, there was a animation division. He didn't care or see any future about animation, so he gave the total responsibility of the animation division to his secretary. She so happened to have a very deep appreciation for animation, so she spearheaded the launch and the expansion of Warner Brothers Animation, simply because her boss didn't want to have anything to do with it. Well, it started making the company a lot of money. It became very successful. One of the creators that she signed was the creator of Felix the Cat. The creator of Felix the Cat became a millionaire because of the popularity of Felix the Cat, but he was also just a total drunk, and he would go on like these drunken rampages. At one point, he urinated on the studio boss's desk in protest. He would come into the studio and fire people for no reason, but be so drunk he didn't remember firing them. So these people could show up to work the next day and he'd be none the wiser that he had just fired them the day before. Then it gets, as the story goes on, it gets into Walt Disney. Goes into a brief history of Walt Disney's introduction into the world of animation. And the book ends where Walt Disney has been fired. And he makes the solemn vow to himself and his wife at the time, I will never work for somebody again. And the next issue is titled one mouse to rule them all.
Oh, nice. I'm going to have to pick this up. I've been watching a lot of the old Disney shorts and even some of the old films that you were talking about that you can get on the internet. You just find they're like 20-second clips of movies that Edison did while he was developing this technology.
Yeah.
That later became motion pictures. And so it really interests me. It's just been a little thing I've been doing in the background for, probably about 2 or 3 weeks now and really enjoying it. So I'm going to have to pick up that book.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun to read, a lot of fun to look at. The narration is very smooth and easy to follow.
Yeah.
So a few things on that. Number one, and you'll be proud of me in this moment, and that's something I continually quest to try to make happen. A few weeks ago, when you could not be on the show, this was my new comic book day setting the menu pick in your honor.
Nice.
So I shot that out into the world because I knew that you were going to pick this up because I knew this was for you. I have a question though.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about the creator of Felix the Cat. Years ago, I had to do some for a paper in undergrad. I did a little paper on some early cartoonists and stuff, and there was some drama around who actually created Felix the Cat. There's a question about whether or not it was created by this Australian guy named Pat Sullivan or the person who was actually his lead animator and kind of his assistant, a guy named Otto Mesmer, which people kind of genuinely or generally think Otto Mesmer was the brain power behind it. Which one of those were they given the credit or the contribution to?
Well, that's mentioned in the book.
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's mentioned in the book.
Well, then I won't spoil that then. Okay, all right. I was just curious because that's with my very limited knowledge of animation history. I was curious if they touched on that or not, or just who they gave the credit to. So,
well, that's one thing that Fred Van Lente is careful to do is he'll mention things like that when things are debated. He usually doesn't drive too hard on those points, but he'll bring those kind of things up. I mean, he mentions, for example, just very briefly that Thomas Edison actually invented very, very, very few things. What he did is he bought other people's inventions and then claimed them as his own.
Yeah.
I mean, capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than what computer companies have done in the modern age, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, nice.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I've been doing some of that research on some of that early Disney animation and stuff, so I'm definitely going to check this out.
I'm assuming in the next issue, or maybe I don't know how many issues they're going to be on. They've got to talk about Bluth, right?
I hope so.
They kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, you have to, and you probably have to talk about Rankin and Bass, right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
What? It may be too far into the history at that point. I don't know. You got an issue with Rankin and Bass?
I don't have an issue with them. I'm just assuming that's not. I'd be surprised if they'd be noteworthy in the history of animation.
Okay, we'll see.
So, Matt, on this topic, though, if you ever get a hankering to talk to somebody, especially because, like you said, the next issue, they're going to dive into a lot of the Disney stuff. Wendy Freeman is kind of low-key an expert on these things. Like she has got more Steamboat Willie facts in her little head than most other humans I've ever met. So if you ever get a chance to, just dive in and bend her ear about those things, I think you would really enjoy that conversation. I
would be interested to get her opinion on the man, Walt Disney himself.
Yeah. I'm sure she's got them. I'm sure she's got it. Like I said, she and I have never had those conversations just because that's not a subject matter that I'm knowledgeable in enough to have a intelligent conversation about. But dude, when it comes to factoids about these, especially about Disney and Disney, early Disney animation, she's a kind of a font of trivia knowledge about it. It's amazing the things that she can just kind of drop off the top of her head. She's an incredibly intelligent woman about a lot of things, but especially that. So
Interesting.
we should get her on to talk about it at some point. I'm sure she'd love to. Well, I am going to cheat a little bit. You guys cool if I cheat a little bit? Instead of talking about one
I mean,
book,
you're going to do it whether we're cool with it or not.
Right.
So,
I mean, you don't know that. You could say no.
Yeah,
and I
he
can
does.
reverse course.
yeah,
And-
you do,
and as do I.
It's all, yeah, do your thing.
Well, instead of talking about one book, well, I should say, instead of talking about one issue, I'm kind of going to cram two issues into one thing. And that's where the cheating comes in. And it all stems from a conversation that we had this past week in our little sideline group chat thing. None of us are really enjoying as much as we thought we would, or as much as we were building up to enjoy the current run of Batman. But especially with the way that Batman's gone kind of over the last 2 years, we all kind of have issues with the main title. It doesn't feel like the Batman that we know. I mean, and you guys have your own reasons to dislike things. For me, especially with what they're doing now, I think Tynan's doing an okay job, but I just really don't. I'm not compelled by the stories that he's telling, and he's making some weird left turns. I think a lot of it is just to introduce new characters and have that the first appearance of this person, which is going to drive up sales. And I'm just not enjoying the story. Anyway, long story short, we were having this conversation, and what I kind of realized is something that I think we all have a moment with. Like, we take a step back and realize that there are, like, whatever our concerns are with one IP character, there's usually a book where those concerns are like the stories that we're wanting are being delivered. I know, like I said, from Matt, the story that he was talking about earlier, the Batman's Grave, really, really meeting the needs of Batman for him. What I kind of quietly realized is that behind all of these superstar writers that tend to get the main title of Batman, be it, like I said, Tynan, Tom King, Snyder, like it goes on and on and on. Tomasi has, like, low key delivered some of the best DC stories that I've read in the past 5 years, and he's never really he's never really hailed as the quote unquote mainstream writer, the superstar writer, the flavor of the minute, who's gonna write the next big thing. But he always delivers. Like, he always gives me exactly what I want to read. And that is also true with what he has been doing in Detective Comics. In my opinion, humble as it is, I think Detective Comics is arguably, again, I say this not having read Batman's Grave, is arguably one of the best Batman books that I've read in years. And that's, I think that's been true of a lot of things that Tomasi has written, whether it's, Batman or Superman or what have you, whatever characters. He's a powerhouse that doesn't get a lot of credit because he doesn't take up a lot of spotlight. And I have no idea why that is, whether or not he does that on purpose or he's just happy writing the stories that he's writing. But the Batman in his Detective comic, is somebody who, as Craig says, is married to Gotham. Gotham is the main character, and Batman is completely and totally driven by protecting Gotham. Sometimes to his benefit, most of the time to the detriment of himself and the people who surround him, and the relationships that he has with those people. Gotham is a driving force in his Batman stories. So it starts off with Detective Comics 1031, and I'm going to roll into 1032. They kind of pair together really well. But what's going on in these stories, I don't know what I know what Craig's opinion is, but I don't know what Matt's opinion is on Damian Wayne. But Damian and Bruce they're kind of they're having a tiff. They're not talking as much. Damian has stolen something from Bruce and has kind of ran away. And what he stole is this thing called the Black Case Book. And it's in a sense, it's Bruce's little black book. It's where he writes down all of the work that he's done and all of the things that he doesn't want anybody else to know. And Damien has this, and what Damien's going to use it for, no one really knows. But he broke into the Batcave because he's Damien, and can kind of do whatever he wants to, because he is, like, depending on what story he's in, he's either a smug little shit talking kid, or he's the most dangerous person in any room that's not named Cassandra at that moment. But so he broke into the Batcave and he stole this book, and he got the hell out of Dodge. And Bruce is trying to figure out, Bruce is trying to figure out how to find his son and how to work through some of the things they're going to. Batman needs this book back. Like, he's got to have it back. He can't let the details inside it get out. It's as much of a tool in his utility belt as anything else. And so he's kind of on the quest to find Damien. And while all this is happening, in Gotham, there is unrest, as any good Batman book should have. And in this case, there's a little bit of political unrest. You have this guy running for mayor who is, he's kind of a grassroots candidate. He's kind of a populist candidate, and with that, if you want to tie it into real world politics, it doesn't really lay out whether or not he's a populist conservative candidate or the Bernie wing, the populist liberal candidate. It doesn't get into that. You can kind of read into it what you want to, but really he's positioned himself as a man of the people, and in part of doing that, he has, like, he wants to ban masks. He wants to. He is leading this kind of grassroots movement of citizens to who kind of see Batman as a tyrant, which that's not anything novel. We've seen that before. That's something that Bruce has dealt with a lot, but this is the first time that it's not the first time. This is just the newest iteration of that. And specifically, he has some clout in this because he's been injured in the course of these masked vigilante heroes stopping crime. He actually lost an eye. And this guy, his name is his name is Nakano. He's an Asian American citizen of Gotham who's gaining some momentum. And what this has kind of all led to is, behind the scenes, him looking for dirt on the vigilantes, but also on the wealthy and well-to-do members of Gotham who overlook all the little people. And so he finds himself at odds with both Bruce Wayne and Batman. He doesn't realize that those two figures are one and the same. But as he's leading kind of a campaign against both of them, they kind of come to a head. Well, there is an individual who, I guess his hypocrisy doesn't know any bounds, because he's very much pro Nakano and anti-masks, but he wears a mask himself, and he calls himself the Mirror. And it's, his mask is, kind of, I don't want to say the idea came from the Watchmen series, but it's kind of like that one guy from the Watchmen series. He wears a reflective mask, and whoever he gets up close to, they can see an obscure version of themselves in his mask, to make whatever statement that he's trying to make. But he has delivered to Nakano a pistol and a thumb drive, and it's got all of these secrets on them that are going to help him in his quest to outlaw the vigilante heroes. But of course, this comes from somebody who has engaged in the same kind of illegal subterfuge, and it is using the same iconography, a la a mask, that Nakano is working against. So he doesn't want to take it. He refuses it. He's not going to win this political race for the mayor of Gotham by breaking his own trust, by throwing his values to the wayside. Which, look, I mean, like him or dislike him, you got to respect that in a political figure. And so he kind of turns it down. Well, this pisses off the Mirror, and the Mirror goes out and he riles up, the unruly masses that are going to, they're getting their signs, and they're not above violence, and they're going to protest and or riot in the streets of Gotham. Well, there's also, as within any political movement, there's blowback to that, right? Like, you have a whole sect of Gothamites who love Batman, who love Nightwing, who like the Bat family, who think of them as protectors, who can get outside of the red tape, who can do what the police can't, who see the benefit of having vigilante heroes and getting rid of these kind of extreme figures, which, of course, that raises up a whole conversation of the Superman theory. That if you don't have Batman, do you have the Joker? If you don't have superheroes, do you have super villains? Who can say that, like, there's more comic book theory involved in that conversation than we really have time for. But anyway, there's blowback, and so it does all come to a head. And to a point, the Bat family, Batwoman, Dick Grayson, all of them, Jason Todd, are all willing to kind of sit up on the rooftops and let folks have their moment, as long as it doesn't get violent. But it does get violent, and they kind of have to swoop in. And as they swoop in, and they're kind of trying to stop the crowd from just tearing each other apart, Batman goes after this mirror guy, right? Like, he goes chasing him down the street, and the mirror has no intention of being caught. And we don't know who this guy is. We don't know who's behind the mirror mask. But it takes Batman off the board, in a sense, and away from the rioting crowd. And as the Bat family swoops in, you start seeing these darts hitting them in the neck, and they're exactly what you like. They're sedatives. It starts putting them to sleep. And all he knows, like, he's cut himself off from the communication. All Batman knows is that his kids are handling business, and they're too busy to talk. Well, this mirror guy essentially jumps off one of the bridges in Gotham and explodes. Not explodes like body parts go anywhere, but like poof of smoke explodes. Like, you don't know if he's dead, you don't know if he's alive, you don't know if he's coming back, and all of this just kind of confounds Batman. But it really plays into the idea that this mirror guy was this populist everyman, and it doesn't matter who is behind the mask. Well, he gets a call from Dick. He gets a call from Nightwing, and Nightwing is like, hey, like, we've got the situation under control. We'll give you an after action report later. You just go wrap up what you need to wrap up and handle your business. And then he cuts off all communications. Well, the problem is Nightwing, he didn't say this because he meant it. Nightwing is under duress. The person who is firing these tranquilizer darts into the necks of all the hero is none other than kind of famed Batman villain Hush, former surgeon, all wrapped up in cloth, hiding his face, just terrifying. I mean, like Hush is one of my favorite Batman series, but he's back, and he's captured all the Bat family, all the Bat kids, except for Damian, because Damian's out of the picture and getting hunted down by Bruce. And kind of his master plan here as a surgeon is he is going to both get back at Batman for all that Batman has done to him, but he's going to essentially literally dismantle the Bat family and sell off all their organs and give all their make himself a lot of money and give all of the Bat family organs on the black market to these people who need them, heart transplants, liver, kidneys, all of it. He's going to essentially auction it off on the black market. And he's a Machiavellian figure, and he's kind of a mastermind. Like, he has managed to get literally everybody. I mean, the Signal, Batwoman, Batgirl, Cassandra, Red Hood. He's got them all, and they're off the board. And so what inevitably happens is the two rogue elements have to come together, right? Like, Batman is able to use his detective skills to, take a little piece of paper that he found in a clump of mud that may or may not have came off the boots of Damian when he broke into the Batcave, and he's able to track him down to wherever he's staying. And he breaks in, and Damian's not there, but he starts rifling through his stuff. And of course, Damian's never too far away. He was laying in wait, and he attacks his dad. And this is very much a kid going after his dad, but Damian's not just any kid. He is a ninja. He's deadly. He's an assassin. He was trained by his mama. He is an Al Ghul at heart, and so he, it's not that Bruce Wayne can't easily overcome this through sheer size and talent, but he doesn't want to hurt the kid, right? Like, he wrestles him to the ground. He's getting him, all these positions. Like, hey, do you give up now? And of course, Damian says no. And do you give up now? Of course, Damian says no, and they just keep going at it, and until all of a sudden something, Batman gets a call from one of the kids. I think it's, he thinks it's Dick, but he answers it, and it's not Dick. It's not Dick at all. It's Hush, and he's like, I've got your family. Here's my master plan. Let me supervillain for a minute and just let you know what I'm gonna do. So of course, Batman and Bruce and Damian have to put things to the side and jump into action, and go work together to save the day. And that's actually going to happen in the forthcoming issue, which I think drops next week, but I'm not 1,000% sure of that. But it's a good story. It's got everything that I think has been missing, but that I think has been missing in Batman stories from Tynan. It's got a lot of the stuff that I know that Craig and Matt have said that they didn't get out of Tom King's run. That it doesn't have any of the things that they were not liking, just kind of getting on their nerves. And it's one of those things, like I felt compelled to talk about it because I seriously think Tomasi does not get nearly enough credit for being one of the best comic book writers as far as just continuing and constantly dropping genuinely good stories. Like, he may not ever drop the story that I think is like the best story of the year, but when I see Tomasi's name on a book, I know I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to have fun with it. And when you pair him up with artists like Bilquis Everly, who did 1031, and Brad Walker, who did 1032, you're getting genuinely fun, heart of the character Batman stories, like these classic stories that we think of throughout the 80 years of this character's legacy. He's delivering that left and right. And like I said, I don't know if you guys are reading Detective or not, but anybody out there who is or isn't, and who's not getting the feelings they want to get from the mainstream run for whatever reason, pick up Tomasi's Detective run, get it in its entirety. Like, you're gonna like it. I almost guarantee it. It's just so solid.
I mean, Tomasi's credited with one of the best Batman and Robin runs ever the title Batman and Robin that led up to New 52. This is something he has a lot of experience in, and he does it well and has done it well. So yeah, I'm reading this book. I enjoy it. I was a little bit messing with you when you said it's Big Dumb Batman, because I don't really feel like it's Big Dumb Batman. It's Batman on a mission.
Well, no, and I didn't say Big Dumb Batman. I didn't feel like there was, when we were talking about it, I didn't feel like there was any, I knew you were just kind of joking and playing, but I kind of want Big Dumb Batman. Like, I want a good Big Dumb Batman story. Like, this is just playing with the relationships in his life to a point. Like, it's not getting into the meat of those relationships in a psychological way that maybe Tom King did in his, that I think pushed a lot of folks off. But it's also not purely plot driven in the way that I think a lot of Snyder and a lot of Tynan's run is. Like, I don't get a whole lot of character development there, even in the characters that they just invented, that's an issue in of itself. If you're going to invent characters, then you got to make me care about them. And so far they haven't in the main Batman story. I mean, there's a little bit of a different story in the first issue of Punchline that I think that they gave you a little bit more of those figures, the persona, to make me care. But I think this is the sweet spot. I think this is just enough character to really fill out and make me understand and give a shit about the relationships, and they're written the right way. And it's enough plot that it still excites the, punch, fight, kick, superhero lover inside me. And it ends well, which is also not true of some of the other stories, especially the main book right now. I did not like, and I don't think you guys liked either, the way that the most recent issue wrapped up. It just kind of felt like a womp 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 moment. Like, Tomasi's not going to give you a womp 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 moment. Like, he's bringing the heat, and he's going to end maybe not in an innovative way. Like, it's going to end the way you expect it to, but it's like wearing it's like wearing a comfortable jacket that you've had for years, right? Like it's you know how it fits. You keep going back to it. It's right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, he's doing a good job fixing some of the screw ups of previous writers. I mean, I'm not trying to rip on anybody, but he is. We got rid of Damien for a long time, and he's working him back into it. We had Batwoman out of the Bat family because of doing something right, but yet Batman will take a known killer into his family, apparently. I feel like that book is by far the better of the two Bat books right now. And I liked Thomas's stuff up until recently. I mean, not Thomasy, Tynan's.
Yeah.
But Thomasy's always written Batman well, in my opinion.
He is.
Why he hasn't been given Batman yet, I don't know. But I guess moving to Detective Comics from some of the other side Batman projects is probably a step in that direction.
What gets me is I would say I would agree with you if this was like a new coming writer, somebody that was just cutting their teeth and really hadn't proven themselves and were still trying to break in, kind of who Tynan was like 5 years ago. But Tomasi's an old head, right? Like that dude's been writing comics for a minute, and I can't understand unless it's just by choice. Maybe he doesn't want to be in the spotlight, but I can't think of a better person to like put him on the main book for like a full run. Because I know he's written some Batman stories. Like we'll give a 3-issue arc when whoever's the whatever quote unquote superstar writer.
When you say he's written some Batman stories, you mean in the Batman book,
in the main title?
In the main title, yeah.
He's written arcs in the main title, I believe. I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows every bit of that more than I do, but it's always in the guise of the main artistic team on this needs like a weekend. They need a break, so we're going to let him do a fill-in arc on this. And I'm just like, dude, like keep him on Detective if you want to, but give him the main title too, because you're getting good stories. Like all the complaints from both myself and other people, I think he doesn't have those. If I had a complaint about Tomasi, it's that his stories are always, you take the toys out of the sandbox, you put them back in the sandbox. And so you're not really pushing the character to change over time. But if you don't want that to happen, then he's your go-to. Like that's the gold star of Tomasi, is that he is going to constantly deliver stories playing with other people's creations that are going to be entertaining, and they don't feel stale, even though they're not breaking new ground. And that's
I disagree with that a little bit. He gave us essentially Damien's personality. I know he was created by Grant Morrison and so forth, but he built Damien's personality and built that character up.
You're talking about in Super Sons?
In the Batman. No, and Batman and Robin, when he was on that run before New 52.
Yeah.
He's the one that gave us, I think it was a 50-issue run or something of Batman and Robin, where you have the interaction between Batman and Damien that built that character.
Right.
I mean, so is he going to play with other people's properties and put them back at the end the way they, in a sense, yes, in that he's not going to kill off Alfred.
Right. I think that's what I mean. I don't mean he's not going to develop them, develop the characters any at all. I mean, he's, like I said, like you said, he did that with, he's done that with a couple of people, not just Damien, but it's always in the sense of there are little tweaks here and there, other than, like you said, maybe developing the entirety of, I don't know that I can say he developed the entirety of Damien's personality, but he developed a whole lot of it.
He developed the relationship between Batman and Damien. I'll put it that way. or at least the relationship we're aware of at this point.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion,
No,
there's he's a good writer, and this is my favorite Batman ongoing book right now. It's my favorite out of the Bat series right now.
Yeah,
the Bat family stuff right now, as far as ongoings.
I love it, man. It baffles me that he is not given a bigger spotlight than what he has. Because you can go on Comic Vine and look through all the things that the man has written. And it's just gem after gem after gem after gem. But I don't think he's ever been given his, like Batman is the thing that drives the DC market. I mean, it's Batman's, almost always at the top of, the selling list. And other than, I don't know the behind the scenes aspects or the, who wants to do what, but like the dude is consistently one of my favorite go-to guys. And it just, I think if it's not by choice, then somebody in editorial is missing a good chance to just give this man the platform that he needs. And maybe he doesn't want it. Like I said, maybe he's fine with just writing the B book.
I think he's probably okay being on the second biggest selling book at DC.
Yeah.
Writing the better story.
Dude, Brad Walker is Brad Walker draws the type of comics that I remember them making toys out of when I was a kid. Like there's one panel in 1032 where like Batman is flying a hang glider that's got giant jetpacks on the back of it. And it's just cool as shit. Like you can just see them making that into a toy. Matt, are you reading this?
No.
I am though, and I enjoy it. So
it's the good stuff. I think Matt would like these stories a lot. Maybe a lot more than the other stuff that's been going on, but definitely not more than that book that he so dearly loves and that he so strongly encourages us to go out and read, Batman's Grave, which will be coming out in a collected issue before we know it.
Do it.
And I imagine when it comes out, he's going to tell us to go out and buy it for a new comic book day. Because every Wednesday the new books drops, and we all get giddy. We put on our Wednesday best. We convene whenever we're able to at the local place of sequential worship, and we give homage to the comic book gods. And we like to encourage you all to join us in doing that. And just to give you a little bit of a hint of what's coming out in this next week, every episode we give a taste of what is coming out, and we think we're going to like it. We don't always know that we are. Sometimes we make mistakes, but that's okay. That's part of taking a chance on the funny books. So this next week, we would encourage you guys to go pick up 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 books that we're going to recommend. And we'll start with, do we want to start? Matt and Craig always fight about this, so I'm going to let them say who goes first.
Well, I'm going to go first because I don't want anybody to steal this. Because Matt accused me of picking this as our roundtable book 2 weeks ago. U.S. Agent number 2. No. I'm actually going to go with Something is Killing the Children number 13.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been singing the praises of this book. It's actually Tynan writing some of his better stuff. Again, one of my favorite horror books of the year. So go pick it up, pick up the trades, get caught up. It's issue 13. So enjoy.
Well, what I'm going to say, I'm fully confident is going to be great and I am going to enjoy, is from Marvel, King Size Conan, number 1. This looks amazing. Their creative team on this is various and strong. Roy Thomas is going to be writing a original story to be illustrated by Steve McNiven. I'm freaking stoked about this one in particular.
Yes, please.
Some other standouts. I'm really stoked about Kevin Eastman is going to be writing and illustrating a story. I can't wait for that. I've always really, really dug Kevin Eastman's art ever since I was a kid. It's so unique, heavy, dark lines. I can only hope it's black and white. I like his work in black and white specifically. And then thirdly, I can't wait to read this Conan story that'll be written by Chris Claremont. He's never done a Conan story before. So I'm really interested to see what his take on this character is going to be. Yeah, I'm stoked.
I'm definitely going to buy it, and I'm going to hate it because it's an anthology book.
You just pour your hate all over. You just pour your hate out, man.
It's amazing. I like Wolverine, black, white, and red, or blood.
Yeah, that's because the greatness overcomes your shallow, your petty grievances. That's what's happening. These books, the power of these books is smashing these infantile weaknesses that you have. That's what's going on.
Infantile. That's hilarious. I'll give you that because you used infantile.
Claremont writes one good story in the last 20 years in a red, white, and blood anthology, and now Matt's feeling brave.
Now I'm all like, oh my God, he's back.
I can't wait for his King Conan book.
All right. Well, the book I think folks would do well to go pick up this next week comes out of a publisher that has they're a smaller publisher, but they are strong in what they are producing. Comes out of Vault Comics, who is beloved by me at the moment. I've been riding the Vault Comics cock for a couple months now. There's just good stuff. This book is called The Picture of Everything Else. It is made by Dan Waters with Kosher Mohan on the art, with Tim Daniel doing some variant art. So just quick and dirty for this book. As the 20th century dawns, art promises to change the world and to steep it in blood. There a rash of impossible killings sweep throughout Paris, tearing the rich and the beautiful apart in their beds. When two art thieves stumble upon the portraits of the victims, damaged in the exact same manner that they died, it appears that the man who once painted the immortal portrait of Dorian Gray has returned with much darker plans for the future works. So, Dan Waters wrote Coffin Bound, wrote some Lucifer. You're in good hands. I think this is going to be the next, just another good book from Vault, as they are wont to do. So
Dan Waters writes some good stuff. So.
Yeah, he does. Craig, there was actually I would have lost money this episode because there's a book coming out from IDW. I would have swore that you were going to grab, that you were going to say, and that book was Star Wars Adventures-Smuggler's Run #1 comes out.
I mean, I'm getting the book, but those are those kids' books, and I generally, I find them hit and miss.
Yeah. Huh.
So the kids.
That's right. I always forget.
There's nothing wrong with them, but the IDW property is the Star Wars written for youth, which is great. I love that they're doing it, and I buy them and support them. But I find the books to be a little hit and miss for my liking.
I always forget that they are the ones who do the all ages Star Wars stuff, and they do the Marvel action stuff too, which is the same concept.
That's right.
with superheroes. So, I mean, hey, look, Christmas time's coming up, so if you need some stocking stuffers, roll by your local LCS and ask for the all ages IDW Star Wars and kids stuff. You can't go wrong with your kids for that. So, well, all right. Is there anything else we need to cover before we call this thing?
Yeah, Dune's coming out in like 10 months.
God damn it, you suck. Fuck yourself, Star Wars. Fucking God damn it.
My man just punched him right in the nuts.
Oh God,
dick punch.
I was just complaining about this. I mean, I was just, the phrase I used last night is that I was complaining to somebody about not having Dune for 10 months. I'm like, meanwhile, these Star Wars fans got more Star Wars than they can shake a dead cat at. I was like, it's fucking ridiculous. There's no justice.
There's no justice. the man can't have his reboot, and there's no justice. Hey, without spoiling anything, though, speaking of Star Wars, how about that Mando finale, huh?
About that Mando finale.
Yeah, it was wrong.
That was like some crack.
It was amazing. And just to be clear, so people know, there is not going to not be a new Mando series. The people are believing that it's now over.
Oh God.
And I'm like, no, it's the single highest rated streaming show ever. It is not going off the air, people. So
folks be believing some dumb shit on the interwebs.
Oh man!
But when you get your news from Doomcock, that's what happens.
They need to be getting their news from us. We're the source for the breaking and the truth on the internet. I promise you, would not steer you wrong. No one should let us lead anything. That'd be terrible. Anyway, as always, if this will be the last episode you hear before Christmas, so have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe. If you can abide by all CDC standards, that would be awesome.
Yeah, don't risk it, people. Yeah. We're this damn close to a vaccine. Wait till you get your vaccine and then have a nice big family gathering.
Yep. But stay safe. I mean, this is the time of the year for reflecting on the important things, be them what they may. And I think this year, more than anything, we need to hold those things close and dear to our heart. So happy ho-ho. Hanukkah has passed, but I hope you had a great Hanukkah. However you choose to celebrate, be safe, don't drink and drive, and then go forth and love some comics.
Woo!
Jerry, woo!